welcome into Out of Bounds alongside with John Luck. I'm Brian Berard. And John, we'll start right off. I know you don't like when I do these little introductions because I apparently lead the people on to believe that something good's going to happen. So let's get right into it. How about that, John?
I'm confused, but okay.
Oh, yes, yeah, sounds good. So the Red Sox have kind of started off the season a little hot, John. 4-1. They have a one-game lead over the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League East. And they continue their road trip tonight. They finish off with the second game in Miami, and they have the day off before coming home and opening up Fenway Park against the Tampa Bay Rays. So, John, what do we think of the first 5 starters here for the Red Sox? Of course, this is the first time in Red Sox history that all 5 starting pitchers have allowed just 1 run or fewer in all of their first starts.
I think Chris Sale's start was impressive, but I think it also gives you a glaring standpoint of what the bullpen's going to look like for this year. The bullpen, I feel like, has been an X factor for the past couple seasons because really nobody's there to help out. So it's going to have to be the starters really stepping up. Porcello, Sale, Price. Price got the first win of the season, which was very important for him, I think. But I think starting pitching is really going to be important, and they need some more starts like that as you continue on to the next month or so because they have some winnable games coming up. They have the West Coast road trip in Anaheim, in Oakland, in Toronto. They also have the Baltimore Orioles come in. There's some winnable games here for the Boston Red Sox. If you can get a lot of wins early on, then maybe you can start working those starters on a different type of schedule.
Yeah, I'm glad that he brought up the bullpen. Of course, in the first game of the year, the Red Sox had a 4-0 lead. We thought that was plenty for Chris Sale. We brought in Matt Barnes in the 7th. He did his thing, and then the 8th inning came, and Carson Smith and Joe Kelly couldn't get out of their way, which was kind of disappointing because you figure a pitcher like Chris Sale and you give him 4 runs, that should be enough until the bullpen came in. And then, of course, Barnes did his thing in the second game, and Kimbrel came in. They all do their stuff. But I was interested to see that when Kimbrel worked on 2 straight days, they couldn't bring him in for that save. And Alex Cora showed faith in Joe Kelly bringing him in. It was kind of a trip, gave up some hits, gave up some walks, but eventually Joe Kelly did get the save in the 3rd game of the year. But, what do you make of that? Alex Cora showing faith into a pitcher like, Joe Kelly that struggled in the first game and came back to him in a tight situation.
It's very important this early in the season. If you have someone that goes out and basically throws up all over the field like Joe Kelly did in that first game, you go ahead, give him the ball a couple days later because you want to show this early in the season that you have a little bit of confidence in a relief pitcher like Joe Kelly. You look at your options right now in the bullpen. Red Sox relief games pitched in 2017. Matt Barnes did lead the way with 70. Heath Hembree has 62. But then you have Walden, Pointer, both didn't pitch last year with the Major League Ball Club. Carson Smith had 8 games with the Major League Ball Club. So you only really have 4 pitchers, including Craig Kimbrel, with more than 50 games experience last year as a relief pitcher. So having Joe Kelly get that confidence back into him for that save, really important, especially at this juncture of the season, this early juncture of the season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be key to make sure that Joe Kelly is, up to par with this stuff because, Walden, he's been in a couple games and he's really had the ball hit really hard against him. And, of course, he has quite the story, finally getting to pitch in the major leagues after being in the minor leagues forever. But, the thing is, another side that a lot of people are kind of confused about is, we thought this was going to be a top-notch offense. They were going to really smack the ball around. They brought in J.D. Martinez. You still have Hanley Ramirez as a big bat. Mookie Betts was an AL MVP candidate. And those first 4 games, they really didn't hit the ball until they got to last night against Miami, where Hanley Ramirez went deep and Mookie Betts went deep. And, Xander Bogaerts is really starting to hit the ball, really hard. And you said, John, before the season, Xander Bogaerts was going to have to be the guy that stepped up. Said, it's 5 games. Relax.
I know my Red Sox.
It's only been
Brian.
5 games. So what do you make of the offense so far? In the first 4 games, they really weren't able to hit the cover off the ball, but in that last game against Miami, they were.
Well, Miami's a dumpster fire. Let's be honest here. Derek Jeter's first year as owner of the Marlins, a complete disaster.
He's just this cheap operating officer.
Yeah, right. But anyways, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in the Marlins series. The Rays series, I think, is going to be more what the Red Sox offense looks like. Last year, they weren't hitting the cover off the ball. I think they were last in home runs, RBI, slugging percentage. The only addition you made this year was J.D. Martinez. It took him, 3 games to get his first hit? That's not impressive at all. I mean, I understand it's still April, but you can't play the same games that you played last year. Otherwise, you're getting tossed in the first round of the playoffs again, and heads are probably rolling from Milwaukee way.
Look, the thing is, when they brought in J.D. Martinez, everyone was so wowed by the fact that they're going to try and bring him in. I said, yeah, I know he played in Detroit, and he did well in Detroit, and he had a really amazing year in Arizona. But, I always say this.
Who saw him in Arizona? Nobody saw him in Arizona.
It's like when I said about Giancarlo Stanton, though. When you come to the American League East, it's a whole new ballgame. It's a whole new animal. And, JD, I know it's a new ball club. You're still trying to, work your way through, and it happens in every sport, John. You come in, you're still trying to learn the ropes a little bit of the city because it's way different from Phoenix, Arizona to Boston, Massachusetts in terms of just the media coverage.
It's the same weather. Come on.
It's the same weather. But, nonetheless, though, finally in that first game against Miami last night, they were able to knock the cover off the ball. Chris Sale is on the mound tonight for the Red Sox, and hopefully he can get his first win of the season. And like I said, they come home, open up against Tampa Bay, and you've already played Tampa Bay twice now. Do you think that helps out a little bit that you've already seen them, or what?
It can help out. They played Tampa Bay, I think, 10 times in the month of April, and going back to March, obviously, for the start of the season. And that can help out, I guess, from a starting pitching standpoint. But I think when you start talking about the relievers, which is where this ball club, the Boston Red Sox, maybe a little bit of a deficit, I guess, compared to other teams, I think that's where you're going to start seeing some of the differences between the Rays and the Red Sox. I feel like the relievers for the Rays maybe stuck out a little more than the Red Sox, just based on the Red Sox difficulties in the later innings.
Now, another question about the Boston Red Sox is what to do with Jackie Bradley Jr. Yet again, he has started off the season really slow, and people are saying that we have to trade him. Now, I think it's fair bet to say that Jackie Bradley is most likely going to be involved in a trade this year if the Red Sox do make a trade. But at this point, do you just get rid of Jackie Bradley just to get him off the roster, or do you obviously you want to try and get as much as you can in return, but are you at the point where you go, we just got to get this guy off the roster?
I think he might be getting close to that point. You looked at J.D. Martinez. Martinez actually thought that he was going to be an outfielder with this ball club, so obviously to be an outfielder, you need someone to hit the bricks. So is Jackie Bradley going to be that guy? Probably. He's a very inconsistent hitter, hitting right around 200 really the entire time he's been with the Red Sox. You disregard that 29-game hitting streak.
That John Farrell ruined?
Right. He's a streaky hitter, and streaky hitters, I don't know what their shelf life is in the major leagues. I mean, I guess you're okay if you come up for a pinch hitting role, or maybe like a bench role, like what Brock Holt's doing, Josh Rutledge last year. If you're having him in that type of role, it's all right. If you're having him as a starting member of this offense that's struggling at the plate, going back to the end of 2016, that could be really important.
See, when Jackie Bradley peaks, he peaks. It's really good. But when he valleys, it is way, way, way low. And you bring up a good point of J.D. Martinez expecting to be an outfielder on this club. And it's, well, what do you do with Hanley Ramirez and J.D. Martinez? And don't forget about Mitch Moreland, who was the big free agent signing last year.
Mitchie Chuback.
So that's the interesting thing is, what do you do with those guys now that you still have Jackie Bradley out there? Yes, he's a great defensive player. Yes, he has an amazing arm. I'm not taking that away from him. But, if you're just going to keep sticking him at the 9-hole in the lineup, I mean, usually when you put the 9-hole there, it's okay, yeah, he's probably the least productive person, but he's a guy that's supposed to turn over the lineup, and Jackie Bradley Jr. is not really doing that. Although, when he does get on base, he's a threat steal, but he doesn't really get on base. But I think they are at that point where we have to get rid of this guy, and I hope they use him to get some bullpen relief, because even though, yeah, you do have a great pitcher in Matt Barnes and Craig Kimbrell, and if Joe Kelly can really figure out his stuff, he's a good pitcher, but other than that bullpen's kind of scary, so I'd like to see them try to move Jackie Bradley for a bullpen arm.
I'm kind of interested to see where he would go, because a team with a great lineup, just throwing it out there, not saying it would ever happen, but if he was with a New York Yankees type of a lineup where you have hard-hitting players all around that lineup and he's just kind of sprinkled in there, maybe he'd succeed more. But I feel like he's been thought of as that guy that's going to go ahead and go on a 20-25 game hitting streak all the time. It's not going to happen. He's a 200 hitter. That's the best he's going to do. He's a great defensive player, almost a Gold Glove caliber type of defensive player. But when it comes to the plate, he doesn't have it, and that's going to be really important for his career if he ever goes out for another contract.
Well, the Red Sox do currently, as I mentioned, have a 1-game lead over the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League East, so hopefully they can keep that up. And, we'll talk about this team as the season goes on, and hopefully they can keep up with this until the All-Star break. So we're going to move on now to the New England Patriots, and there's been a lot of stuff has come out since the Super Bowl about Rob Gronkowski's retirement and, Tom Brady's Tom versus time and all that stuff. But the big thing to me is Bill Belichick is really frustrated with Rob Gronkowski right now, and who can blame him? But, John, I have to ask you this, is a lot of players are starting to get kind of ticked off at Belichick because they're taking away some of the privileges that they have, a.k.a. Alex Guerrero, but is Bill Belichick starting to lose the New England Patriots?
I think so. I think it goes back to that quarterback controversy with Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom Brady. Really, ever since then, we've seen the stuff hit the fans here, ever since that ESPN article came out. So with a player like Rob Gronkowski, if he hangs close to Tom Brady, maybe he can get Bob Kraft to work with Tom and Rob, maybe get Alex Guerrero back in. And at some point in the very near future, if this keeps going, Bill Belichick's going to say, forget this, I'm out of here. Josh, here's your dumpster fire. I'm leaving. I'm going on my boat.
Now, the thing about the Patriots is a lot of people would come to New England. They would take that pay cut to play for a championship caliber team. And we've seen it time and time again with Tom Brady taking the pay cuts, Danny Amendola taking the pay cuts. And now people aren't taking the pay cuts to come to New England to play for a winning franchise, because I think some of these players are starting to leak out some words that it's really not what it's cracked up to be. So to me, that's more concerning. Yes, I do think the Bill is starting to lose him a little bit, but not completely. I don't think he's lost the whole entire clubhouse, but I think he's starting to lose Brady. He's starting to lose Gronkowski. And, it was rumored that, he was going to go into acting or go into the WWE. And most people are expecting Rob to come back, because I think at the end of the day, he says, look, if Brady's back in, I'm in. But, how big of a situation is this Alex Guerrero thing? Because it seems like almost all this is centered around him.
And I think it's bigger than Rob Gronkowski and Tom Brady. I think almost half the Patriots look to Alex Guerrero for the weight training, for the fitness, for the health, all the answers for Alex Guerrero. It doesn't link up with what Bill Belichick has to say. He goes to the team doctors. So you have two butting heads there. And eventually I think Alex Guerrero will probably be with the Patriots in spite of Bill Belichick, maybe trying to keep the players happy. You want to keep Tom Brady happy. You want to keep Julian Edelman happy, Rob Gronkowski. If you keep those three players happy, winning will cure all. You go 12-4, 13-3. Everything we're talking about right now and throughout the summer, that's going to be nothing if you're in another Super Bowl.
Exactly. I mean, I still think that the AFC East is the Patriots to have. I mean, I don't think you can call the Patriots, a clear-cut favorite, especially if Rob Gronkowski doesn't come back. But I fully expect him to come back. But so what do you make so far of the Gronkowski situation? Do you think he really does want to leave football, or is he kind of doing it to get more money out of the Patriots?
I think there's a lot of faults here, and I think you go and look at the Gronkowski family. He got a concussion in the championship game against Jacksonville. Everyone was worried about Rob Gronkowski. Is he going to be able to play in the Super Bowl? I mean, there's a lot of concussion rules and laws in the NFL and all that you need to get cleared and all that. But did the Patriots maybe cut some corners, put the team first, put winning first, and put Bill Belichick first? If that's the case, if you're Rob Gronkowski, I'm putting my life in the hands of Bill Belichick, who wants to win and have me do my job and go out and get my bell rung. If I'm going to do that, forget you, pal. I'm going to go get hit by a steel chair in the WWE and get paid a lot more money and go play with The Rock and Mel Gibson in Hollywood. I'm not going to go play for the Patriots for less money than I can make on camera, in the ring, doing whatever else.
Now, the thing that came out about Rob Gronkowski was actually his last training camp, where he was starting to think about retiring, because he came back in training camp. There was a story how he came out, he dominated one play, he got a touchdown, and of course it's just practice, but he starts dancing around, acting like a fool. He's having fun, like he knows he's healthy, he's there, and Bill Belichick goes up and goes, cut it out, stop it. He goes, you mean to tell me that I'm out here working my butt off and I'm just trying to have fun, and I have this coach here who's been on me my whole career, and he's telling me not to have fun. It goes back to the kind of the Boston Red Sox thing. It's no longer fun to play here, but I think when he starts to think about that, that's kind of worrisome to me. And I always wonder this. Had the Patriots won Super Bowl 52, is Gronk still pondering in a retirement, or is he not?
I think you can say that about a lot of them. I think you can say that about Tom Brady because of the whole Tom versus time thing. Remember, they had to go ahead and change the ending of it because he lost the Super Bowl and he came up with a weird cliffhanger, I'll be back, or something like that. But if they win the Super Bowl this year, does Tom Brady come back? And let's say Tom Brady retires, does Bill Belichick come back? And at that point, if you're Gronk, you're hitting the bricks too. So I feel like Super Bowl 52, the Patriots saw it as an ending point, but the Philadelphia Eagles capitalized on some poor defensive decisions for the New England Patriots. They won the game, so now it's kind of like, well, what do we do now? And you can say this about a lot of dynasties. A lot of dynasties, they don't end peacefully. There's a lot of mudslinging that goes back and forth, a lot of quoted sources or unquoted sources. So this is no different than what happened in the 70s with the Steelers or the 80s and 90s with the Niners. This happens in dynasties, so it shouldn't be surprising to Patriots fans.
Well, I think the thing is Bill Belichick really wanted to win at least one without Tom Brady to really cement him as the greatest coach of all time, because I think the thing is if he doesn't win one without Brady, they're going to say, well, you only won because you had Brady, and they're going to completely forget about the 80s and 90s with the Giants.
But you can say that about a lot of the big coaches in the history of the game. I mean, Don Shula, you link Don Shula up with Dan Marino. Tom Landry, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's had some great quarterbacks back in the 60s. I mean, Bill Belichick is up there in the top 3 of all-time wins. If you can't hang your hat on that, then then are you really one of the best coaches if you want to go out there and just win for yourself and not for the team and unifying the team and bringing it together?
Well, I think, strangely enough, this is an ego thing with Belichick. I mean, how he controls the locker room, who can come in, who can see it, who you can get your treatment from. I think, and the thing when he sat Butler, I think a lot of this is an ego thing for Belichick now, because I think he really does want to be regarded as the greatest coach of all time, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Is it weird to think that maybe he's getting bored with his job? You look at the success he's had over the past 17 years, you can say, well, he's a 5-time Super Bowl champion, true, but at some point, you go in, you win 12 games a season, you're pretty much a lock to do that unless you have an injury. At some point, does it get boring for Bill Belichick to come in and try and out-Belichick himself? Because there's been a couple of occasions that he has tried to out-Belichick himself, and he can even turn to the Super Bowl and think that he could do better than Malcolm Butler.
I don't think he's bored, but especially in this last year, we had to try to figure out how to keep Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom Brady, and trades Jimmy Garoppolo, gets a second-round pick, and Jimmy G signs for $137.5 million, making him the highest-paid quarterback in NFL history. Yeah, that's boring. But on the other side of the break, we're going to stick with the New England Patriots. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Malcolm Butler situation as some more facts have come out. Don't go anywhere. More Out of Bounds right after the break.
If you don't fix them, sparks from dragging tow chains could cause a wildfire, and that could be scary.
Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Out of Bounds, alongside with John Luck. I'm Brian Berard. We talked some Red Sox. We talked some Bill Belichick. We're going to continue with the New England Patriots as some more details have come out about the Malcolm Butler situation. Of course, he was benched in Super Bowl 52 for all of one special team snap. Of course, Malcolm Butler came out and said, I think they wanted me to focus on some other things. I got sick, so I missed the team flight out there. And some other players are saying we didn't agree with the situation, but he probably should have been focusing on some more things. So more and more details are starting to come out about Malcolm Butler. What do you make of the newest updates here?
I think this goes back to a theory I've had for a long time. I thought that this ESPN article that came out the week of the Tennessee game that really threw this Belichick-Brady Kraft relationship under the bus, I think that Malcolm Butler was your source. Now, I think for the last few games of the regular season and the playoffs, Bill Belichick caught wind of that, and he wasn't very happy with Malcolm Butler. Now, to say that it was a bad decision not to play him in the Super Bowl, obviously, but I mean, at this point, do you just go ahead and look past this? Because this is going to be looked at as one of the biggest coaching gaffes in a long time. And if you're Malcolm Butler, if you did nothing wrong, then just continue to go in a straight path in Tennessee.
So you're saying that he was the source in the Seth Wickersham article?
I am.
Then explain how he got the flu and explain how he missed the team flight out there, because this is the reason why.
I got the flu too.
Well, we know that because it was a big event. You decided to blow off some things. But
I'm 1 for 2 on my big events, Brian.
Look, the reason why he was benched is because he got sick. He missed the team flight out there. He was a little behind in practice.
If you're sick and you miss the team flight, then you go ahead and sit him for the first half. You don't sit him for the entire football game of the biggest game of the season.
But then, and that's the other point is some other players are saying, yeah, he probably should have focused on some other things, meaning the Super Bowl. So what was it that he was focused on during Super Bowl preparation that Bill said, all right, the heck with this guy, he's never going to step foot on this field?
Well, it goes back to the contract. You can always look back at that too.
There's
a lot of factors with this Malcolm Butler situation that could go beyond just Belichick and Butler.
I don't think it was that. I don't think he was the source in Wickersham's article. I don't think that he was the guy that's started to spread some rumors here to the media. I think what it really was is he got sick. He missed a team flight out there. Belichick was pissed that he couldn't, suck it up and go out to the team. And I mean, the part is, I get the first half, you go, all right, we're going to bench the guy. He clearly doesn't have it.
Yeah.
The part where I think a lot of us are sitting there going, in the second half, you still didn't put the guy in, but forget, if the Patriots avoided that strip sack, they still win the Super Bowl without him. But when I hear the players say, we didn't agree with the move, but he should have been focusing on the game, it has to make you think, what was he thinking about these past 2 weeks, the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl? What was on his mind? Was he complaining about the contract? Was he complaining about how he wasn't in the right scheme? Was he complaining? So when we found out that it was a football decision, and we heard more and more details saying that this was most likely decided Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before the game, and he found out 5 minutes before the game, allegedly, but then who was it, Eric Rowe, that said that, I didn't know until before the game, and then there's other players that said, oh yeah, we knew. Devin McCourty said, yeah, we knew he wasn't going to play. So there was something clearly went down. We're never going to get the full story, John, because that's the New England Patriot way. But I have to imagine that I think Butler was told, and he lost it. He completely lost it. And he even said in that quote, he said, I thought about calling out Belichick and Matt Patricia in that game, but he held back. So I had to imagine he found out earlier than what everyone's telling us, and he absolutely went bananas.
It's entirely possible, and I think this is going to be one of the fun things about the Patriots, maybe from an off-season standpoint, because this is going to be a situation that keeps spiraling as we go into next season.
All right, well, that's all the Patriots talk that we have for today. We're going to move on now to the Boston Bruins. They are in first place in the NHL's Eastern Conference. They have a 2-point lead over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and of course they play Tampa Bay tonight down in Tampa Bay. So, John, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We thought, can the Bruins be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender? We said, yeah, of course. There's some hiccups down the road, but that was back when they were in second place, and now they're in first. Now I have to ask you, how far can this Bruins team go?
I think this is a Bruins team that can go pretty far. It depends on the matchups, obviously, because I still pit Pittsburgh in a series against the Bruins. But this is a great team because there's been a lot of injuries. You have players like Charlie McAvoy, Riley Nash, Rick Nash, Brandon Carlos, Daniel Chara, Patrice Bergeron. A lot of big-name players missed a lot of time, so you could have easily blamed the season on injuries. You could have had the younger kids from Providence come up and stink out the joint, but they came up and they came to play. You look at the defenseman core. You have Daniel Chara, Torrey Krug, obviously, but then you have players like Nick Holden, Adam McQuaid on your second-line defenseman. So there's a lot of shuffling that's being done in the defensive zone, which I think is where the Bruins may have some difficulties in the postseason.
So the Bruins played Tampa Bay last week. They got that in the win column. They went into first place, and they went down to Philadelphia. It was a kind of a struggle of a game, but Patrice Bergeron scored with 3 seconds left to tie the game up. That was clutch right there. That's Patrice Bergeron. That's the reason why people want him to win the Hart Trophy, which is NHL's most valuable player. And of course, it didn't work out the way that the Bruins wanted to, losing in overtime. But that was a key point for the Bruins. And the thing is when you can't really get ahead of this team. If you get a 2, 3, even a 4-goal lead we saw a few years ago against Toronto in the playoffs, you get a lead against this team, you really can't let it go. You got to keep your foot on the gas pedal. It's like when you played the Patriots. The Atlanta Falcons found that one out the hard way. So the thing that I love about this team is that they just never give up. What concerns me, though, is how they get down early, and there's going to be a team like a Pittsburgh or a Washington where you're just not going to be able to come back. So, you can come back against the Tampa Bay, you can come back against a Philadelphia, but Ovechkin, it's going to be hard to come back against, and Phil Kessel and Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh, it's going to be hard to come back against. So that's one thing I do want to see when they get into the playoffs is get to those leads and maintain those leads, because in the first round, if they have to keep coming back from behind, I don't think that team's going to go far. Yeah, they have a lot of young talent. They have that it factor, but when you're going against a team like Pittsburgh that has won the Stanley Cup, I'm sorry, you can't play from behind many times and win.
I think that's a warning flag for the Boston Bruins. The youth of this team, the number of young players, rookies they have on this team, Ryan Donato, Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen, Tim Schaller, these younger players, they're going to get thrown into the fire here in the first round. Maybe not the first round because they're playing the Jersey Devils, but the second round of the playoffs, if you make it to the Eastern Conference Final, these younger players are going to learn that you need to not just play, but you almost need to just survive just to get to the next round. It's going to be a rock fight, I think, if you get into the second round of the playoffs, if you do take on a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs or like the Washington Capitals, combined against the Bruins, Toronto, Washington, 6-1. So you don't want to play those two teams. In Toronto, they didn't have their younger player. The name's slipping me. I'm not a big hockey guy, but nevertheless,
they didn't
have a young phenom that has been killing the NHL all season long. He didn't play against the Bruins. If he plays against the Bruins and this defense of the Bruins, it could be a very difficult series against the Maple Leafs for the Boston Bruins.
Now, the thing about this season that's really been remarkable is the play of Zdeno Chara. I mean, he's kind of like there, up in age with Brady. I think he's, 40, 41 now?
Yeah.
And, he's been playing lights-out hockey this year. So how important is Zdeno Chara to this team to make a deep playoff push for the Boston Bruins?
Zdeno Chara, I think, is the anchor of this Boston Bruins, especially in the defenseman core. Leads the team in ice time average of 23 minutes a night. You see Zdeno Chara on the ice. A 40-year-old leads the Boston Bruins in ice time by about a minute or two against these younger players. So Chara, he's going to be very interesting to see how he handles the potentially 14 or 21 extra playoff games in April and May.
All right, so we've talked about some Red Sox, talked about some Patriots extensively, talked about the Boston Bruins. When we come back, we're going to give you our final thoughts. No holds barred. You just go out there, you say what you want to say.
I can say what I want to say?
Well, I'm not going to censor out many things, but that's right after the break. Don't go anywhere. More Out of Bounds. All right, welcome back to Out of Bounds alongside with John Luck and Brian Berard, and it's time for our final thought. So, John, I'll give the floor to you. You go talk. I'm going to shut up.
Cool. It's like a dream come true. Brian Berard can't talk. Yeah, I agree back there. We think about the month of April, and, it's a tradition. Unlike any other. You had the Masters, the NHL, the NBA playoffs, getting all situated. Pretty much you have sports till about 2 in the morning. You have the NFL draft, and more importantly, arena football starting up. But now we have the continued debate of Major League Baseball, pace of play, do we need to cut the season short? And we might have to, because you look at the Diamondbacks-Dodgers game they played last night, 5 hours and 46 minutes. The game ended at 3:30 in the morning for a 15-inning game. This is way too early to be playing baseball. 6 games so far across Major League Baseball have been postponed due to snow or cold. The attendance has been embarrassing. The Oakland Athletics game against the Texas Rangers, 7,000 fans. On average, Major League Baseball last year, 3 hours and 7 minutes for a baseball game. So how can we shorten the game? Well, first, you can go ahead and make a 7-inning baseball game. You can get the younger fans involved, start the games earlier, maybe, a 6 o'clock start as opposed to a 7 o'clock start. Games will be over 2.5 hours. For your extra innings, so you avoid a 15-inning nightmare watching baseball, falling asleep on your couch, eating cheese and nachos, you can start off with a runner on second. Maybe you play 10 innings or 11 innings, but you don't play your 18, 19, 20-inning marathons. Or you shorten the season, which I think is maybe where Major League Baseball has to go. Maybe start the first week of May and have it go through to Labor Day. It's a summer game. Why are we playing games in 35, 40-degree temperatures at night? Nobody's there. It hurts to hit the ball. I think these are some options where baseball can really improve upon itself, and maybe even starting a point system. Get some fans involved. Get your math nerds involved. You can start a point system like hockey does. You have a win, you get 2 points. A series win, you get 5. And a tie, you get 1 point for each team in a game. Now, granted, I got this off of Felger and Maz, a show that Brian knows very well because he got roasted by Felger and Maz, which was pretty funny to watch. But I think baseball has a problem of getting people interested. It's a pain in the butt to go ahead and watch 162 games a year, 3.5 hours of watching some 35-year-old pitcher scratch himself. Why does anybody want to watch that? Shorten the game, get more viewers, make baseball more interesting. I thank you, and I approve this message. I will see you in the office for 2020.
All right. Jeez. All right, John. Calm down. I agree with your points. I think baseball does need to be cut down a little bit. But all right, John. Yeah. All right. I'm going to focus my attention on the National Football League. Over the offseason now, they've decided to fix the catch rule, and they have come out and said that now Des Bryant's catch a few years ago against Green Bay Packers is now a catch. And you mean to tell me now that the league executives at the NFL now decide to change the catch rule? Over the past few seasons, especially with the New England Patriots, we've seen time and time again, is that a catch or is that not a catch? Plenty of times the Patriots got the benefit of the call many a times. And of course, even us Patriots fans says, yeah, that's a catch, but the NFL says that that's not a catch. The NFL needs to change their policy when it comes to domestic violence. All right, because Josh Hines, kicker of the New York Giants, was found guilty to beat his wife over 20 times and was suspended for 1 game. 1 freaking game. We saw the video of Ray Rice doing it, and he pretty much got banished from the league. How does that make any sense? Meanwhile, Tom Brady, there is 50.1% evidence that there's a 50.1% chance that he may have known about someone deflating a football, and he gets a 4-game suspension. The NFL has to change its policy when it comes to punishing players, and it has to change its policy when it comes to protecting the players. We've seen time and time again players go through the concussion protocol. They go out there and it's, hey, can you count? No? Good. You can get back in there because you spoke to me. The NFL is a complete joke. They don't care about the players. They don't care about the fans. All they want to do is get that money. And eventually, and we saw last year and parts of this year, the ratings went down for a reason. The NFL needs to figure its stuff out, especially when it comes to player safety and player discipline.
I feel like we just sat here and yelled about sports. We could probably be more believable.
This is intense.
If we talk NHL, I don't know. I'm talking pace of play. I'm your guy. That's my presidential campaign right there.
All right, for John Luck, I'm Brian Berard. Thanks for watching Out of Bounds. Don't forget, you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/BTVOB. You can follow us on Twitter at BTVOB.